Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel. Thursday, March the 6th, 4:02 a.m. Hope you're having a great day. Big blue mug of coffee. Before I go anywhere, I do anything, I want to say hi to Linda. Last night, I'm at South Center Mall here in Calgary with my wife in the food court. This nice lady leans over and said, "Are you the guy on YouTube with the big blue mug?" And my wife, her jaw dropped. I'm a pretty modest channel here, approaching 11,000 right now subscribers, but hi to Linda. Thanks. It's nice talking to you last night. And to get me to 11,000, click on subscribe right now. So, question for you right off the top. Do you feel like you're living in cloud cuckoo world right now? And the reason I ask this is, I find myself in agreement with people I would never agree with, and the people I usually agree with, I don't agree with at all right now. And I'm going to start off talking about Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta. Now, if you're in the rest of the country or the rest of the world, you can relate to this, okay? I think booze, alcohol has become, is the word microcosm the correct word? It's become a symbol of the stupidity that's going on when it comes to government right now. I really believe that. Now, I want to say this so it relates to everybody. Do you remember at the beginning of the pandemic? In fact, we're approaching the 5th anniversary of them announcing the pandemic. It's coming up in the next week or so. But do you remember at the beginning of that? And then they started mandating wearing masks, and I hated that. I really hated being told what to do. And you probably felt the same way if you're at this channel right now. And I remember saying during the pandemic, because I quit wearing a mask, but I said, would you have felt differently if the government, somebody from the government had walked out, a health minister, a premier, a prime minister at that point, and they'd said to you, listen, there's this pandemic, there's this bug going around, it can kill people. We would appreciate if you wore a mask. You know, you have the choice to wear a mask, but it might help. You probably would have been more likely to wear it and not felt pressured and not felt like the government was telling you what to do. And that's the way I'm feeling about what's going on right now when it comes to our provincial premiers, when it comes to the federal government, when it comes to politicians of all stripes, when it comes to this tariff issue. Now, Danielle Smith came out yesterday and she had a news conference, and this is what she had to say about booze. And remember, I think this is a symbol of what's going on right now here in Canada.
Second, no further purchases of U.S. alcohol or new VLTs will be permitted through the AGLC until further notice. We'll just have to drink a bit more BC wine and Alberta craft beer and spirits, and that's just fine with us.
So Danielle Smith is now lockstep along with other premiers who aren't going to buy booze from the Americans anymore, and video lottery terminals. That's what VLTs are. And I think a lot of people have made some very good points. They saw Doug Ford pulling all the booze off the shelves the other day, and they made some very good points, but one point's being missed here, and I'm going to get to that in just a moment. But before I do, Canada is totally preoccupied with Trump tariffs right now, scared to death of Trump tariffs. So are American citizens, folks. They're scared to death about what's going on here in Canada. Here is Tim Pool on his show last night talking about booze. Check this out.
Check out this clip from Brian Kranzenstein. It says, scenes from Ontario, Canada, making America great again by making the world hate us and not buy from us. This is American liquor produced in red states that has been ordered to be taken off the shelves across Ontario. I don't think he realizes I laughed my ass off when I saw this video. Watch.
I've already paid for it, you idiots.
Look. So it's just, there comes all, what brand is that? Can you tell? Is that Bullet?
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt.
I was like, dude, there's no tariff on it.
Yeah.
You have it already. You can sell it. They're like, oh yeah, we'll show you. We'll take all the stuff we own and get rid of it.
They're laughing at us. They think it's a big joke. They're not concerned about this at all. We seem to think we're going to bring down the United States. I don't think that's going to happen, folks. And they rightfully point out what everybody else has pointed out. The booze is already paid for. So you're losing out on all that money. Now, Doug Ford, he brags about Ontario being the biggest purchaser of booze in the world. That's because it's government run. I mean, Danielle Smith can't pull the booze off the shelves in Alberta because mom and pop shops sell that stuff. It's sold in every corner store here. And she'd be taking money right out of their pockets, so she can't do that. But Doug Ford, it's all performative art. He's not sacrificing anything, folks. Because he's putting the stuff in a room out back, he's just going to sell it later, so he's not sacrificing anything. And here's the thing. People like Doug Ford and Danielle Smith at this point, I guess, and other politicians, including Trudeau, all think we're part of Team Canada. We're all jumping aboard Team Canada, and we're not. See, they can't leave the stuff on the shelves because somebody with a phone's going to walk in a couple of weeks and notice that people are buying the American products because they want to buy it, because they like it, because they want the choice, because it's a better deal. If it goes off the shelves, then the whole Team Canada thing goes poof. If they were so sure Team Canada was a thing, they'd leave it on the shelves, it would collect dust, and they wouldn't have to buy it anyway. And that's where the stupidity is here, folks. That's where it is. Now let's take a look at Danielle Smith's X feed from yesterday. So here is her X account from yesterday. And actually, just before I move on here, I honestly think, we're talking about booze here. I think we need more booze in the country because in order for us to get through this, we're all going to need to be blind, staggeringly drunk. I do not think that's the case. But over to Danielle Smith here. She spoke for about 10 minutes. Other people spoke here. I'm sure the news media had questions, but I watched her talk about the booze and whatnot, and she's just getting beaten down. Look at this. The government should stop telling citizens what they can and cannot do. We didn't vote you in for this. Buy American, take your Team Canada and shove it where the sun don't shine. Why did you flip-flop on this? So then Amazon, Walmart, Lowe's, Costco, Home Depot should all be forced to stop bringing in products? I mentioned this the other day. They should be stopping American hockey teams who are selling their products here in the country? We've got hockey games coming up. Should we just cancel all those games? This is the kind of stupidity we're getting. I disagree with the people who I normally agree with. And I'm going to agree with somebody in just a moment who I normally disagree. One of the few people that's speaking sense here. And then let's move along. Danielle Smith has turned her back on Alberta, now fully supporting Justin Trudeau. Call it GM, you're done. You promised a referendum and to fight Ottawa. Now you're carrying water for them. And here's Don Braid in the National Post. Don Braid, Danielle Smith stands as squarely for Canada as Doug Ford does. And I'm wondering if people who were calling Danielle Smith just a couple of weeks ago a traitor, whether they're jumping aboard the Danielle Smith train now. I just wonder. Cat Canada yesterday on X, Liberals and Conservatives telling Canadians not to buy American goods and not to go on vacation in the U.S. in response to the tariffs. Will you be listening to your leaders and boycotting U.S. goods? Well, as far as going on vacation, who can afford to pay the dollar exchange rate? The Liberals have made such a mess of our dollar. What is it, 30 to 35 cents on the dollar? Nobody can afford a vacation there unless you're rich. And over here, this kind of goes back to what I talked about yesterday. Now that we've seen all the Canadian party leaders react to the U.S. tariffs and politics of the last month, who would best to be serving as Canadian Prime Minister? And people are saying Maxime Bernier. This is not a scientific thing, but folks, we need Pierre Poilievre. Maxime Bernier is never going to be the Prime Minister. Now, here's somebody I actually agree with, and I vehemently opposed to this man. This man is against pipelines going through his province, but he's making sense. Watch this.
I am far from being certain that threatening the United States not to supply them with electricity is such a good idea. We've got to keep in mind that after the crisis, they will still have to be business partners. They will, or we want them to keep buying our electricity. So it seems a strange idea to me to threaten them of being a bad partner. Sometimes I understand that in a crisis we want to show muscles and say big words, but sometimes it's not the best thing to do.
Yves-François Blanchet, he's the leader of the Bloc Québécois. I never agree with this man, as I said, but he's talking good sense there. Shutting off power to 2 million people in the United States during wintertime, Mr. Ford, probably not a good idea. You could kill a few people, and you've got the world's biggest superpower sitting right across the border. This is Doug Ford putting on an act. Now, to give Danielle Smith a little credit, she did say this about our oil.
And as for existing oil and gas sent to the United States, Alberta does not and will not support cutting off or taxing Canadian companies on existing energy exports to the United States, and that's for two key reasons. First, doing so will hurt Canadians far worse than Americans should the U.S. retaliate in kind, which they will.
She's absolutely right. It would hurt Canadians, but remember, any tariff on the United States is a tax on you. Now, before I leave, completely unrelated, but In 3 days, we're going to have a new prime minister. The Liberals are going to pick a new leader. That person will be the prime minister, probably Mark Carney. How long before they cancel the carbon tax? They've all been saying they're going to do it. Don't you think it should come to an end? And how magnanimous are they going to act? Like they're doing something good for you when they do this after screwing you over for 6 years. Think about it. Thanks a lot for watching. I do appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share it if you liked it, ring the bell for notifications, and I'll see you in the next one.